Fremantle 11th on the AFL ladder right now, but a win this afternoon will move them back into the top 8. The Adelaide Crows are third, and they're hunting down a top 2 spot. We're underway at Patersons Stadium with an early free, and Matthew Pavlich, the man we were speaking of, gets an early break. Hits wide. Ballantyne.
Jack Anthony starting out of the goal square.
Central ball instead. Ibbotson back into the lineup, couldn't get there. And Van Berlo takes a saving mark.
Couldn't have got a more positive start. Matthew Pavlich gets the ball, hits up Ballantyne, but that really hurt them, that cross.
Dangerfield's kick, not so good. Callan got it up to right. He went for Douglas, missed him. De Boer.
It was a horrible decision to go back inside. Needed to be the kick. They got the tall timber, and the Dockers back in town.
Jack Anthony, 4th game for the year. After 4 games last year, back into the lineup. Mzungu chips it. Pavlich. No arm slap free to the Pav. Barlow couldn't get the possession off. Ibbotson again in some traffic, but it's tough in there. There's 20 players around it. They're trying to build a ship in a bottle in that short space.
Good start by Jack Anthony.
Another ball up.
Got an early mark, but I thought Tenai Mzungu could have just used him laterally again, got the handball over to him. Need to look for your players that are out of form, just get them into the game.
Nice knock clear from Sandlands into the space. Barlow bounces it towards full forward, caught a fingertip and rushed through just as Jack Anthony was thinking it might bounce to him.
Sure, it's been an electric start by the Dockers. They're up and about, and they're obviously trying to move the ball quickly.
Yep. A lot of handball, and it looks like Crowley is going with Thompson, boys. I saw Pavlich lining up on Dangerfield. Gee, that's a danger for both sides. One, when they get in the midfield, Dangerfield will have the advantage, and Pavlich up forward if he pushes forward.
Saw one Shaw as the other Shaw was having a chat. Tony Shaw, Sam Shaw back into the Crows lineup this week with Taylor Walker. Allows Tippett to come up the ground and get a possession, and it works. Right. Manhandled off it by Pearce. Sandlands.
Great work.
Spears to De Boer. Wants to play on quickly to Pavlich, who's free of his man. Talia slipped and Dangerfield was nowhere near him. And he's run down brilliantly by Sloan. Too slow, and Sloan wrapped him up.
Well, it was great work once again by the Dockers. Like the work of Sandlands, he was moving very light in his feet, which is saying something given that he's about 120 kilos. But just you can't beat a great chase down.
Dangerfield feeds it wide to Douglas. Comes inboard a little, hoping for right, but he provided. Plays on quickly. Tippett's inside 50, but it was over his head. McFarlane outmarks Jenkins. Quick play on Johnson. Outside of the foot, tried to manufacture something that wasn't really on. Vince. Just bumped off it. Clark did well there. Yench thought he had more time than he did. Stole him back again. So Jenkins to Rutten. Vince.
Geez, the pressure is creating a lot of mistakes at the present time. At the moment, it's the Dockers who are looking a hell of a lot sharper. It's only a couple of minutes in. But I think Ross Lyon would have expected some sort of response, and he's just getting it temporarily.
Pearce kicks it straight into Taylor Walker, hands it up to Sloan, and that's against the flow, that goal. That hurts.
Well, he is just a genius, this young bloke. One end of the ground, he's doing run-down tackles. Magnificent 1%er. I mean, that inspires your group. And then at the other end of the ground, he gets involved, a nice smother, and he bobs up. Good handoff and snaps around the goal. Now, that Shorey absolutely kills you. You've got the momentum going your way, and just the poor kick results in a turnover goal against the flow.
Well, it does deflate you, Jared. Just having a look at the forward line for Adelaide, they've gone with Walker, Tippett and Jenkins, so they have gone very, very tall, trying to stretch the Fremantle defence.
Sandlands and Jacobs went at it. Mundy a little slow, and Vince pounces, try to get it to Thompson. Mundy back again. Ibbotson, Sandlands, big bump on Pearce. Douglas did well, used his body, went and got ball. Poor Pleasure back, put Shaw under some pressure. Bounced kindly for him. Squeezed the kick out, looking for Petrenko. Taps it off. Thompson. Van Berlo. Riley. Well worked to right. And another inside 50. Tippett. McFarlane. Boundary line beats them both.
Well, they've gone with Zach Clark up on the forward line again, the Dockers. Pavlich has gone from midfield to forward and now coming off the ground, Jacko.
Yeah, he's done a mountain of work in his first 5 minutes, so expect him to be through the midfield and hopefully they can utilise him going forward to kick a couple of goals.
So both the Pav and Dangerfield off for that exchange. We'll get a ball up inside 50 for Adelaide.
Don't lock on Ryan, let him run.
Garrick Ibbotson back in the side today. He's the highest possession getter. He was running with Bernie Finch earlier in the piece.
Here he is on cue for you, Jared. Wobbly ball, tough one to mark, and Shaw back into the lineup as well, trying to make an impression. Sam Shaw yet to kick a goal, and this probably is beyond him. He realises that, goes to the pocket. Walker couldn't quite clutch it, tip it, and that's the two-pronged forward line we talked about. Couldn't find a handball target ball in.
Looking at the size of Sam.
Oh, there's a free kick here, Jared, against the play.
Taylor Walker just got sucked into it.
Yeah.
Ryan Crowley up against Scotty Thompson. So well done, Ryan Crowley.
Sure, looking at the size of Sam, I take it he's no relative of yours?
No. He wasn't from Pygmyville, mate.
Mundy, wait until he plays 200 games, you'll claim him. Neil hands it up to Muzungu, of course, his second game of his career this afternoon for Sam Shaw. Clark, almost 50 there. Rutten manhandled him. Ballantyne, what kind of afternoon is he going to have from the pocket?
Oh, have a look at this. This is great. If I know we missed it out here on the replay because it's too quick. What's happened? He should have centred that ball. He had three players. There was Main had to go, Anthony had to go, De Boer had to go at him. Totally undisciplined that he didn't centre that ball. Great to see some young leadership in this group just setting the scene for the club.
I think more importantly, sure, at this stage, the Dockers just appear to be trying to play on at all costs. Even if it costs them, and it has cost them once already with a smother and a return goal. Aaron Sandlands, I'm seeing him do more metres so far, Jacko, than I have for a while.
They're all up and about, which is pleasing. Obviously, they got a rocket after last weekend's poor second half, but good start. They've just got to convert goals now.
Sloan to Vince. Jenkins at half forward went for it, but Duffield crumbed it. Johnson, Muzungu, Pearce. Good crowd in as well. Throughout the Dockers, some have called them unwatchable, but the crowd have turned out again today. Perfect conditions for football. Free kick.
And the Crows coming here would know that they've just got to absorb all this pressure. Their probable goal, I reckon, in the first quarter, Shorey, is just to be right there with them at quarter time. Absorb all the pressure, take the heat out of the enthusiasm of the Dockers, if in fact that's what they bring to the table.
Petrenko got down, got dirty. Dangerfield dangerous, but he gives it wide. Poor pleasure. Kick half smothered. Callanan in the pocket. Kickable by his standards. Oh, you bet it is. Amazing goal from the pocket. Oh.
Well, once again, there was an opportunity to centre, but always seems to go out the window, that rule, Shorey, if in fact you kick the goal.
I just love the way he goes about it, Ian Callanan. Mature age player coming to the club. He's fast, he's enterprising, and he's talented too at the same time. So well done.
He's been one of the stars, one of the big improvers again this year.
Now, boys, I just talked about Ballantyne not centering the ball here. We've just got a vision. Have a look at the top of the screen. There's 1, 2, 3, all hands up, and they're all saying, hey, get that ball to the top of the square so we can keep a competitive issue within our forward half. That was undisciplined. So great. I think it's good leadership from those youngsters.
Ballantyne gets a possession for you on cue to Muzungu. Just pokes it up in the air. Hill stood under it for a while. Dowdy and Thompson combined to tie it up.
Well, you speak of Thompson. Sure, he mentioned that he was being tagged by De Boer. Well, Dangerfield, who hasn't been tagged, had 6, and Thompson, who is being tagged, 1 handball.
He might have gone to Dangerfield. De Boer just in that.
He has now. Pavlich went forward.
Okay, in that contest, right, caught by Main, and well, Thompson's the key. Second most possessions in the AFL this year, Scott Thompson, and he's averaging 30 possessions per game.
Well, Crowley's running with Thompson as we speak, and Van Berlo's going with Hill. So plenty of one-on-ones.
And Dangerfield likewise having an outstanding season, averaging 28 possessions per game. Johnson and Tippett tie up. It was a push in the back. Jenkins not paid it. McFarlane hands it up, but Sloan.
Right handle.
Callanan through the pigeons. They parted for him initially. Walker, 1, 2, 3. Broughton the crumb. Brought down Broughton. Still no free. Good contest. Gets a handball out. Duffield looked at Main. Main looked at Duffield. And we'll get a ball up.
I think it's already standing out, Jared. When they go forward, they look so dangerous with the 3 talls at the moment. And I think they've dropped one off, matter of fact, that Jenkins now has come out of the forward line. But those 2 talls look very dangerous for Adelaide.
I reckon they could have got a goal there. Taylor Walker goes sideways. He loses his opponent. Kick wasn't long enough.
To the pocket. By the way, that was Crichton, not Main, with the flowing locks. They do have a similar head of hair. And it's a free kick to Adelaide in the pocket, and the crowd are not happy.
Well, I've got a real opportunity now to get a nice handy lead early in the piece, despite the enthusiasm of the Dockers. The scoreboard is what tells the story.
Richard Douglas here. I've got an issue with this sideways. I think if you take one step back to make you come in like this, it's play on now.
He hooks it, and he's hooked it out of play on the full.
Just that line where they take a step back out of the boundary line, I think should nearly be out of bounds.
Well,
because you're going off the line, isn't it?
And
you shouldn't be given advantage.
He ducked into that as well a little. His head was down there, but sort of accentuated how far down it went. De Boer to Broughton.
They're out here.
Barlow's calling for it quickly from Pearce, but he stopped and floats one to Pavlich wide, and that allows the Crows to get back.
Great running here from Barlow. Should end up with it.
Bouncing ball that was tough to collect on the half volley. Shaw had a piece of it. Neal now gathers inboard. Mundy needs to finish. And he flicks the on switch finally.
Well, they had to make the most of that. They just had it set up from half back. A couple of times I thought, oh, they're going to go back and take their kick, which they did. Then they had to hit targets. It was all in front of them. Players were over the top. Adelaide Crows had pushed up, not in a zoning situation, but just moved up the ground thinking offence. And some good kicks over the top allowed this to happen and occur. Well done, Neil. Good handball in the corridor. They needed that. They've still been in the game and having a go at it, but the scoreboard's very important, as you said, Jared.
Jared, you mentioned Barlow's great hard running, but Lachie Neale, he set up the goal as well. Just an extra number at the contest and fed the ball out to Mundy. So good running by Fremantle in waves of 3 and 4s.
I think what was most notable of the last couple of forays forward is that the Dockers are keeping their forwards well and truly back inside 50, not getting sucked up all the ground. So when they do break, there's something to kick it to.
Sandlands with the big thump forward, as good as a kick. De Boer, short. Anthony couldn't mark it. Ballantyne from the same pocket. Well, his centre here is corralled. Barlow was his last resort, having to give a handball away. He didn't really want to. And Yench marks back pocket.
Nice start for David Mundy as well, coming off the bench. First touch, slides one through the big ones.
And it's game 150 this afternoon for David Mundy, great servant of the club. Crowd thought that was out on the full. But Matthew Wright marked it right on the line. Jenkins again manhandled off of that contest, and the mark taken by Duffield, the other milestone man. Game 100 for him this afternoon.
Jenkins looking for the body of Johnson. Should have just attacked the ball. He would have got it easy.
The battle, Talia against Pavlich. Right. Little fumble from Riley. It works for them. Thompson, Rutten. Going back to go forward, though. Thompson, Vince, caught high.
Well, good start through the middle of the ground of Matt De Boer, who's been fantastic in that forward defensive role, but he's already starting to rack up half a dozen possessions. Ballantyne also, I think he's one, sure, that just needs to lift and get some more footy, and he's also got 5. Good start to him.
Great attack, the half volley, Petrenko. Kick not so good, Barlow.
Too much Hollywood in that kick.
Duffield. Broughton.
Oh, got a run and draw there. They're out again with a switch.
McFarlane. Duffield. Crichton. Johnson. Goes with a low pass, hoping for Barlow. Cut off by Sloan. Van Berlo.
Big job for Talia again, sure. He's on Matthew Pavlich. He's done some good rolls so far this year, but this will test him.
You want it deep if you're going to. I think he'll get him on the body Jared. So Crowley is fairly quick off the mark, and we're going to see it. Oh no, he's fallen over here, Pav.
Crowley didn't really attack that as much as he probably should have. Maybe didn't think it was his ball. Ballantyne spent that before he'd earned it. Ball up.
This is exactly how I reckon Ross Lyon is at his best when they're set up like this, Jared. Everybody in 1/4 of the ground.
Well, they haven't got a great record at the moment so far, sure, in kicking goals from stoppages.
No.
Maybe they'll turn that round starting here.
Sandlands with the flick. Pavlich wrapped up. Sandlands is the key in these contests. He gets his hand to the ball first so often. In fact, he's the #1 player in the AFL for ruck tap-outs, but he's #5 for taps to advantage. And Jacobs is the #1 ruckman in the AFL right now for taps to advantage. And there's a perfect example. He tapped it to Adelaide's advantage and they're away. Douglas, Jenkins.
Nowhere to go.
Yeah, no one forward.
Vince, Jenkins realises that now. Jacobs, Van Berlo.
Good pressure.
Mazungu. Duffield. Mundy.
Talk about pressure, Ashori. Fremantle 15 tackles to Adelaide's 11.
Pierce, short pass, Pavlich.
I said the talls of Adelaide look dangerous every time they've gone forward. On that occasion, they had no one to kick to because that forward press that they put in place for Fremantle was fantastic. But this looks like a matchup which they can really go to with a lot of confidence, both in body strength and also maybe not on the lead as much, but just the nous that he's got to get in the space.
Well, game plan in focus across the nation over the last 7 days. Right now, Shorey, if this is what you were seeing, you'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, pretty happy.
11 goals, 8 this year. Didn't kick a goal last week in the Derby. That's a spear.
Oh.
Splendid kick. Fremantle in front.
Well, he came out during the week and said, I've got to lead better. I think he's been a fantastic player. The problem is we don't get over the West as often as we want to see how good he has been, Dwayne. But like I said, I just think this is a real matchup. They are doing well around the contest. The one thing about Sandilands, which you talked about, good with the clearances, like his hands on the ball. He has got, I think they're second to advantage now, but you might be right, fifth. Problem is that clearances have been shocking. It's ground level where the issue is.
Mentioned their efficiency from hit-outs. Well, centre bounces, the Dockers are really struggling. They've actually ranking 18th. They've scored just 6 goals, 7 or 13 times from centre clearances, which, given the strength that they have there, isn't a number that reflects what they should be doing.
Ibbotson gets the clearance. Main couldn't quite collect it.
And that's the 5th centre clearance they've already won this round.
Yeah, that's good.
5 out of 5 this game, and yet they still haven't scored.
Jared, great work by Chris Main, under a lot of scrutiny himself as well, but he's 1 on 3 there. He just had to force that ball into a ball up and hold his feet. Didn't go to ground. It was great work.
Crichton out to Ballantyne on the left. Puts the Jets on. He just wanted to kick it. That was all that was in his mind. No handball, no look around, just kick the goal.
Let that be a lesson, please, to every young kid out there who watches his superstars, who are bending the ball on the right foot. Still practice your left foot, because that is holding Hayden Ballantyne back at times, and that was one classic example. He was desperate to get on his right, should have just faded, got some space on his left, and he would have kicked a soda.
Every AFL player should be able to kick 30 on their opposite foot, if not 50.
Gee.
Douglas to tip it on the march. Got it.
Well, Walker's deep here, boys. He's gonna have a one-on-one.
He might go up. He might take the big jump on Pierce.
No, he didn't have to.
No, perfect mark.
That's why you see Adelaide's uncontested numbers down, because they don't often handball in lots and lots of cute methodology getting the ball forward. They've got these weapons where they can go big kick mark, big kick mark. They're contested possessions. And the fact that they haven't got the uncontested, to me, is a strength rather than a weakness.
23 goals, 15 this year. Back from a 2-week suspension for a pretty harsh penalty for the sling tackle that really didn't have a lot of malice in it. Not a lot of force in it either, but he missed 2 weeks. And he squeezed it in. Only just.
He's got the classic style, though, sure. You'd love a young bloke to turn up as your club who kicked the ball like that. That's 12 long kicks to 7. It's a really different game plan to most other clubs.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think you were the bloke who turned him around, Gerard. I can remember in Amy Park when he was sitting up in the stand one day and I was with you. And somehow the camera panned to him while he was just having a quiet ale.
Oh, right.
You cooked him, Shorey. You cooked him.
See, sure, you can't fool the people.
I was trying to handball.
Imagine if the camera was on you every time you had a beer during your playing days.
Oh, well, I wouldn't have played.
That's right.
You would have had a great sponsor, that's for sure, Shorey.
Dangerfield from the fleck down. Gets a clearance of sorts. Mazungu cuts it off. McFarlane. Mazungu. So you count those a Fremantle clearance even though they went back to centre-half back. Back to half forward and the turnover. Smith. Oh. He fell into that high tackle, did Riley. Smith back to Jacobs, and McFarlane should mark that.
Even big Sammy Jacobs has got a left foot.
Yeah.
Important 5 minutes for Fremantle to lock it out. Adelaide are the first quarter specialists. They averaged 32 points for their first quarter, so can't afford Adelaide to kick a couple here late.
McFarlane. Duffield.
Oh, that's a good switch. They've got a loose man on now.
Johnson looked at De Boer, he ignored him, and then he tried to kick it to him, and he kicked it to the boundary umpire.
Well, you're going to take the game on. There's five or 6 minutes left in the game. You don't want to just go and hold possession. Play like you have been, taking the game on with handball, trying to split the lines.
Slowed long. Walker couldn't get a run at it. Dawson does on the two grabber. Were you nervous there, Tony?
Well, I was over the head with Zach.
I'll tell you what, it was good defence from Zach. He left his man. He read it so much better. Excellent work.
Right to Van Berlo. Chaos ball inside 50. Thompson on the run.
Bounced the opposite way to which it was spinning, and unfortunately for him, he ended up with an off break when he needed the Zuta to go straight.
I know what you're saying before, Shorey, about take the game on, but common sense does have to come in, especially when there's only 4 minutes to go. And you know, Adelaide, the quality, they will hurt you the other way. So if you do take a mark, go down the line, play the percentages, even for these last 3 minutes.
Jacko, 5 minutes, you know that when they do it, they get nervous. I reckon you've got to play the game and maybe get to a minute and a half, but, gee, 5 minutes holding the ball is a long, long time.
Bomb of a kick to be marking. Johnson made a very good effort, and Riley tied up as well.
Going back to that, in today's football, not necessarily the next option is the right option, and I think sometimes players, given the game plan and the flow, they want to get it on quickly and get it in their offensive area, but common sense and smart footy still prevails, I think.
Mundy to De Boer. Riley, gee, read that well. Neil opted not to punch. Fremantle flooding players back. 4 minutes from quarter time. Thompson the target and slapped out of play. Taylor Walker back into the lineup with 23 goals to his name. We'll talk about the Coleman medal race a little later on, but for the record, Lance Franklin kicked 13 goals today. If you're unaware, the Hawks winning by 118, and we will show the highlights of that at halftime.
We got time?
I think we have. Always got time for Buddy. Ibbotson.
Look at this. It is the classic fast break, but interrupted. Good running again from Mane.
Little spill from Crichton, and that's all it takes sometimes. That's a goal gone begging there.
But see, they took it on, didn't they?
They did, but I tell you what, this Crow defence is superb.
Good,
that was a goal, and it was just dragged back. And they haven't started with absolute intensity that I think the Dockers have, but they still maintained their principles and dragged it back.
Dangerfield hacks it forward. Thumb clear. Broughton. Dawson. Duffield. Rushed kick, but he knew Ballantyne was out there. And Ballantyne gets and goes. Pavlich.
Better kick from Ballantyne.
Mundy. He could launch it from there. Goes with the pass. Anthony up. No. Thumb clear.
3 against 1. It was a good jump from Jack. But great defence from Rutten.
Shaw put that skyward. Hill and Sloan went at it. Van Berlo keeps it alive. Callanan. Walker. Clever flick. Callanan short. Jacobs playing at a full forward at the moment.
That was goal. That
floats it back again to the pocket, and Van Berlo takes the mark. They are a crafty side, the Adelaide Crows.
Switch on here.
Oh, big switch.
Shocking.
Paul Pleasure could go up on Mundy, and Mundy thought about going up on him. Paul Pleasure first to bounce up and get the possession. Thompson tracks it down. Petrenko, some space to spin, turn, steady, goal. Simply superb.
Well, that's just a level of class that I don't think the Dockers have got it just at the moment. That is brilliant play from Taylor Walker, and well read by Callanan. I reckon they got away with this kick, Shorey. That, to me, was a really dangerous kick. Nice work in the finish to turn it round by by Paul Pleasure, and then smart return, and they get another one.
Well, David Mundy went for that mark across halfback. Just wondering whether he should have gone the spoil, maybe boundary line.
He's had a fine year, Petrenko, as a negative type defensive forward, but geez, he bobs up plenty of times with the ball and the goal himself.
And Dangerfield is off. Long launch. And a good mark to Broughton.
Well done.
Started well.
And Petrenko couldn't quite stop him then on cue, just to illustrate your point, but he has had a good year. De Boer, Frighten,
Right over the top.
Pearce, Main, back to Pearce, Ballantyne short, and he's claimed the mark.
Well, I love that. And 50 metres.
Gee, I think that might have caught a bit of grass for mine.
I just love the way that they kept moving the ball, and not to say either way's right or wrong, but to me, they've tried to keep the ball by foot in their back half, and they've kicked 2 goals very quickly, Adelaide Crows. You've still got to score against them here, and their opportunities.
Ballantyne goals, and he lets them know about it.
He does that, doesn't he?
There's your confirmation.
Well, it was a brilliant mark, a great lead, an average kick, but this was a good, desperate lunge. And he nearly undoes it all by getting up and doing a smart bump. Probably another adjective. Now, if the umpire had been watching, that's 50 metres. Sorry, that's a return free kick.
But Dowdy had reason to doubt that was a mark, didn't he? Surely.
Well, if it's paid by the umpire, you cannot touch him after, though, Dwayne.
Depends on when the umpire blows the whistle. I mean, you play to the whistle, and if the umpire hasn't paid that mark yet, and you doubt it, then you've got a reason. Rory Sloane's ball in the middle.
Well, nothing had upset a ruckman more than that. Sandland goes in, risks getting a knee in the ribs, wins the tap, gets it to Mundy, and somebody's grabbed hold of a tagger.
Sloane wide, and Douglas can get and go.
Good run.
And pumps it to the square. Callanan's down there and just flicked through for a behind.
That's a dangerous kick. He's got a monster kick, Douglas, when he gets up and about.
Not only that, but Douglas has been dangerous on that outer side, so Fremantle just got to man him up. He's just rolling off the half-back wing and finding space with too much ease.
He came on late last week against Collingwood as the sub for Adelaide. He's been out, but he was in form in the SANFL, kicked 4 goals the week prior in the SANFL. So had some good form for Glenelg. Sandlands can't mark. Sloane. Impossible ball for Callanan. Possible ball for everyone bar right to Petrenko. Walker, another flick on from him to tip it, and he manufactures another goal. He's doing everything right, and he got this one to right.
Dangerous goals coming late in the term, and this one again is just all class. Taylor Walker at the bottom of the pack. He creates something out of nothing. It was a mongrel bounce. Everybody goes to ground. But it's that little flick out here. There. Nice little tap. Wasn't a throw. It was more a hit. And Wright gets on the end of it. Just the running power of the Crows, Shorey. He's one of their great assets.
Have a look at this, Jared. This is where Sloane had the ball in the middle for a free kick. Look at the space on each side of they've got the spine, and all their big blokes went in there. They had space on either side inside 50. Just a great setup of a forward line when you get a free kick out of the centre like that. They would have trained for that sort of stuff.
Tie up in the middle. Dying seconds, opening term. Adelaide have stuck to their 5-goal first-term pace. That's their average in the first quarter this year, 5 goals. They've got 5-2 to 3-3 right now.
They've got 5 separate goal kickers and a good spread as well, Wright and Sloan. And I think Sloan, with 1 possession in the final quarter last week, would have made a very big mental note to address that situation, given it was such an important last quarter.
Neil, Mundy, Johnson. One last chance for a Fremantle score before the break. Riley searches for the line. Splendid fist.
Sure, I want you to take a look at Zach Clark. He just looks at a bloke like he's got all the athletic ability, but he's not using it. He's not jumping at the footy. He's looking for the body of the opposition.
Let's hope we see that contest again, because I was thinking exactly. He's on Rutten. Just run and jump at the highest point, because Rutten won't be able to reach up that high.
Did it last week against Darren Glass, and Glass just outbodied him and was close enough to best on ground. In fact, he was officially second best. But Clark can jump over anybody. He's just got to let himself go.
Need a quick kick inside 50 and a mark. With 1 second left, there a chance to take a mark. Tippett flies and does take the mark. Would have been touch and go for the umpires anyway. Quarter time at Patersons Stadium. Adelaide Crows 3rd on the AFL ladder. Fremantle 11th. Crucial game for both clubs, and both have shared the lead in the opening quarter. But Adelaide lead by 11 at the first break. 5-2-32 to 3-3-21.